A reading from the book of the prophet Isaiah. The Lord was pleased to crush him in infirmity. If he gives his life as an offering for sin, he shall see his descendants in a long life, and the will of the Lord shall be accomplished through him. Because of his affliction, he shall see the light in fullness of days. Through his suffering, my servant shall justify many, and their guilt he shall bear. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
A reading from the letter to the Hebrews. Brothers and sisters, since we have a great high priest who has passed through the heavens, Jesus, the Son of God, let us hold fast to our confession. For we do not have a high priest who is unable to sympathize with our weaknesses, but one who has similarly been tested in every way, yet without sin. So let us confidently approach the throne of grace to receive mercy and to find grace for timely help. The word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God. The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Mark. James and John, the sons of Zebedee, came to Jesus and said to him, "Teacher, we want you to do for us whatever we ask of you." He replied, "What do you wish me to do for you?" They answered him, "Grant that in your glory we may sit one at your right hand and the other at your left." Jesus said to them, "You do not know what you are asking. Can you drink the cup that I drink, or be baptized with the baptism with which I am baptized?" They said to him, "We can." Jesus said to them, "The cup that I drink, you will drink, and with the baptism with which I am baptized, you will be baptized. But to sit at my right hand or my left, that is not mine to give. It is for those for whom it has been prepared." When the 10 heard this, they became indignant at James and John. Jesus summoned them and said to them, "You know that those who are recognized as rulers over the Gentiles lord it over them, and their great ones make their authority over them felt. But it shall not be so among you. Rather, whoever wishes to be great among you will be your servant. Whoever wishes to be the first among you will be the slave of all. For the Son of Man did not come to be served, but to serve and to give his life as a ransom for the many." The Gospel of the Lord. Those of you who've been teachers, you know how when you first land at a new school, lots and lots of people have good ideas about how you can help out. Like, would you mind, being the associate director of the Future Cooks of America Club? Would you mind coaching the girls' track team or the boys' tennis team? Could you, I think you really got what it takes to do X, Y, and Z. And the requests come in, and they're all good, valid, holy things. And they just come in big numbers. And then imagine what it's like as a new priest at a Catholic college or a high school or a grammar school. And there's lots and lots of good ideas about the ways in which you should spend your time. Can you help direct the retreats? Can you, do this thing? Can you do that service project? And in addition to your regular stuff. And it's all good and it's all worthy of support. And you realize, well, I can't do all of that stuff because I've got to get my quizzes back the next class. That goes without saying. Nothing's allowed to impede on that. And then, you got to get your God time in and whatever. And so my first year down at Loyola, I think I was feeling a little bit like, wow, there's a lot of stuff to do around here. And I got into a conversation with the fellow who was then the academic vice president, the provost. And I was saying to him that there's a lot of stuff to be done around here. You know, if you want to make the school succeed in a lot of ways, there's a whole lot of requests that come in. And he said, well, that's interesting you should mention that because I need someone to join this curriculum committee for such and such a thing. And I'm thinking, oh, no, not one more of these. I'm thinking, I just don't know, man. I don't know if I can do that because that's a pretty big time commitment. And he gave me the little insight, and it's useful. He said, well, remember, you can succeed at many things. You cannot succeed at everything, so choose wisely. You can succeed at many things. You cannot succeed at everything, so choose wisely. So I'm really going to have to take that to heart. And the irony of it was, no sooner did he say that, and I was saying goodbye to him at this walk in front of the old administration building, some kid comes up and says, Father Hilton. I said, yeah, I'm the one. He said, well, I've heard about you, and do you think, and the guy's still within earshot, he said, do you think you could help coach the JV sailing team? Curriculum, not so much. The JV sailing team, I'm in, right? And he knew, this guy is shy, he was one clever devil. He knew exactly what was going on. And I thought, well, oh gosh, got to take that one to heart too, because what he said is so true. You can succeed at many things. You can't succeed at everything, so choose wisely. And I was so sort of impressed with that. I remember talking to my spiritual director up in New York about it, about the way that whole project of discernment can make good use of that phrase. Trying to discern what it is that God is asking you to do. Where do your basic passions overlap with the world's greatest needs, right? And how is it that you decide if you can succeed at more than one thing, and you all can, at many things, how is it that you figure out which one really deserves your attention? Or which ones deserve your attention? Jesus makes it pretty clear today in the gospel that what deserves your attention are those projects that serve other people. And there's a difference between those projects that just promote ourselves and those that serve other people. And we've got to keep our eye on those where there's a piece of service to it. And so those service projects, and I'm not talking about some standalone service project, which are good and holy things, but I'm not talking about some special projects. What I mean here are those things in life that we do that serve others in all sorts of ways. And yeah, just by doing what we do, we are serving others. And then the phrase becomes, you can succeed at many things. You cannot succeed at everything. So succeed at the inspired thing. What's the inspired thing? The thing that really helps renew the face of the earth. That does, as the old folks in the turn of the century, last century, would have said, that does the most good for the most people for the longest time, according to Christ's hopes. But check this out. Jesus is saying that very thing. You can succeed in a lot of different ways. You could become great in the eyes of the world, but really focus on those forms of greatness, those aspirations of yours that make the world a better place. And so at the end of today's gospel, Jesus says, I don't want you to be great like the people of, quote, this world are great. I want you to be great in a way that makes you the servant of all and the slave of all, that really puts you at the service of the well-being of other people. But notice Jesus does not say in the gospel today, don't think about being great. Don't think about being first. No, he never says that. What he says is, if you want to be first, great. If you want to be great, great. But you got to do it in a way that serves other people. And he says that in today's gospel, and he shows us that with his life. Jesus could have done anything. Most of us are under that restraint of we can do many things well. We can succeed at many things. Not Jesus. He could have succeeded at anything. That's precisely why the devil, tempted him the way he did in the wilderness. Jesus could have become completely independent, turn these stones into bread, Jesus could have just lived off the entire human grid his whole life, but he didn't choose to do that. He chose to be in relationship and dependent on other people like the bread bakers. Satan says to him, well, I can make you in charge of all the nations that you see here. And Jesus says, I don't want to succeed at that. That's a lot of self-promotion. That's not a form of service. I'm not going to do that. Satan says, well, I'm going to get you to see if you can succeed at getting God to be at your beck and call. So throw yourself off the top of the temple and see if he catches you on the way down. No, I'm not going to succeed at that, Satan. That doesn't do anybody any good. And then Jesus shows us by his life what it really does mean to succeed, right? There you go. And his success was the ultimate service, was opening heaven's locked doors for you and for me. His success was to serve, to show us how to live and what's going to happen after we die. So Jesus made it clear in the disciples' day, you want to be great? Terrific. You want to be first? Terrific. But make sure that it's a way of serving other people. And he showed us in his words, and he showed us with his life. Contrast that to the disciples, James and John, Zebedee's sons at the start of today's gospel. They're the ones who want to be great in the eyes of the world. And how do they want to be great? They want to be great by sitting one at the left hand of Jesus in his glory and one at the right hand. Now, try to figure that one out. How does that benefit anybody else? What good does that do for anybody else in the world, right? Other than give them a privileged position and a seat of honor. It doesn't, right? They say, let me sit at your left, let me sit at your right. Wait a minute, Peter, James and John, what's in it for other people if you sit at your left, at my left and my right? By the way, that's not mine to give, but just out of curiosity, how does that help anybody? It doesn't. It just makes you feel good about yourself. No, I'm not into that, James and John. If you want to be great, if you want to be first, serve other people. So don't shy away from greatness. Don't shy away from success. Don't shy away from being first. But make sure that your standards of success, your criterion, line up with God's hopes. It would be way too easy and way too wrong to make the next move of this homily be, okay, so where are you going to start serving others? That's the devil's tool. The devil wants us to ask the question, how are we going to start serving others, as if you're not doing it already? And the truth of it is, you're doing it in 101 ways. And the truth of it is that your definitions of success do coincide with God's hopes for the world. You know that. Yeah, we all have miles to go before we sleep. We all have next steps to take as priest, as prophet, as king. We all have next steps as people of prayer, as people of service, as people who build up the community. But recognize your foundation is probably in pretty good shape. That those ways in which you define success make the world better for other people. And let's just break it into a couple of different pieces. Students. You want to be great at something, you want to be great at athletics, you want to be great in your academics, you want to be great in your club activities. I'd ask you to think about, okay, that's cool, but how is it that you connect that to the well-being of other people? Well, whenever we know that whenever we get people to use their gifts and really use them well, God is glorified in that. If you become part of a team that brings in other people and treats them well and trains them to know how to really be superb athletes, that's a beautiful thing. Your definition of success makes the world a better place for those other kids. It creates a sense of community if it makes the right choices and glorifies God. In your academics, know that when you really want to pursue things, an 800 on your SAT just for the score of an 800, just for the sake of that, who cares? But if you're starting to connect the dots between that and the way in which you might be able to serve the world down the road, good for you. Socially, we all have mean boys and mean girls in our schools, but you know that, to have a great group of friends, there's nothing wrong with that. You want to be great at being a friend? Terrific. Are you being fair and square and honest and open and welcoming? As you work in the house, right? Moms and dads, parents and kids. It's one thing to want to be, mother of the year for the rest of your life or father of the year for the rest of your life. But you know that day in and day out, maybe you're not going to get any big prize. Nobody's going to come and give you the gold medal for being the mom of the century or the dad of the century. But you know that your definition of success, what you're trying to do for your family, aligns with God's hopes for the world. You've got it going on. You've already got it going on. You know that. Professionally, sometimes people fall into the trap of thinking, well, when I walk out of the door and I walk out of church, whatever else it is, when I go to work, I put my God life on the shelf. No, you don't. Think about the ways in which your definitions of success, professional success, align with God's hopes for the world. It's so easy to separate those things, and it's such an unfortunate thing. Just takes, for example, so many of you are in tech and communications, right? Think about the ways in which your work keeps people from being lonely and separated and cut off. Think about the ways in which your work enables people to learn things from a distance in ways they couldn't have done before. Think about the ways in which your work keeps families in touch in easy times and in difficult times, right? Your work, your definition of success, makes the world a better place. Maybe some of you are in medical or pharma, or who knows what it is, right? Come on, that's not so hard to do. To make that connection between the work you do day in and day out and God's effort to renew the face of the earth. Teachers, public servants, bankers, engineers, nurses, teachers. You know how it is. If you just step back and look and say, wow, let me just think this through. Whether it's a professional commitment, whether it's my life in the home, whether it's my life at school, whether it's my life as a retired person, regardless of where you are along that span, you have operant definitions of success. And chances are those definitions of success are inspired. Because those definitions of success lead you to do good things for other people. When you do good things for other people, you're making the world more the way Jesus Christ wants it to be. So the challenge is, I'd be grateful if you could not drive out of the parking lot until you come up with 2 or 3 ways in which your most important definitions of success these days, and whatever's going on in your life, your most important definitions of success, those deep down aspirations that God has put in your heart, when you act on them, when you pursue them, you really are renewing the face of the earth. You really are serving other people. You really are directly or indirectly enabling Jesus Christ's dreams for the world to come true. You can succeed at many things. You can't succeed at everything. So succeed at the inspired thing, the thing that makes the world a better place, according to Christ's definition of better. You're doing it. You've got it going on. Name 2 or 3 ways in which your definitions of success and your pursuits of excellence really do delight the Lord. So it's about the definitions of success that we all have. God has put in us aspirations for success. Not every aspiration for success that dwells in our hearts is of God. How do we know those that are and those that are not? Well, those that really make life better for other people, especially in ways that help them to know, love, and serve Jesus Christ. And so we all have them, and the question is sorting it out. And chances are about 99.5 out of 100 that whatever is your major definition of success these days, whatever's that thing that keeps you getting out of bed in the morning, that thing, that pursuit of success is something that delights the Lord and renews the face of the earth. Yeah, we all have to clean it up a little bit. But can you just name the ways in which your basic aspiration for success at this period in your life really helps fulfill Jesus Christ's dreams for the world? And unless you're a drug peddler or sell horrible stuff or hurt people, you can't get out of here with saying nothing. You're like, those people, there's nothing they do that's good for the world. But everybody else, like you, plenty. So name 2 or 3 of the ways in which your aspirations, your operant notion of success makes the world a better place, according to Christ's definition of better. Let us pray.